I'm Ginger Johnson, a human connection expert, and I am in Talent, Oregon right now. So let's go.
What is up, Superior Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Your Superior Self. I'm your host, Trey Downs, and I just want to welcome you to the show. I'm going to say thank you for taking the time to download this episode and hang out with me today. I have the most amazing guest today. Her name is Ginger Johnson. And there are two things that I love about Ginger. Can you guess one of them? I'll give you a hint.
That sounds like a riddle.
It's not a riddle, Ginger. It's your laugh. It is so unique. It's so you. It's your calling card. Anybody who knows who you are, knows that laugh. And that is why I love talking to you. It's like you get this genuine person on the other line and this warmth. And the other reason why I love talking to you is your energy and your unbelievable intelligence on connectivity, on connectedness, on how to connect with people on a different level. Like, you're so old school too. You don't believe in Facebook. You believe in the connectedness of written form. Like, after this interview, she literally sent me a postcard saying that she loved being on the show, which gave me inspiration to do it for myself. Like, there are some, I'm not going to say all of them, but some of the guests did receive a postcard from me because of Ginger, because I thought that was really professional, and I thought that was a unique way of expressing her gratitude. It's who sends a postcard anymore? Like, nobody. But that's just taking your game to another level. That's thinking outside the box and being connected on a whole different level. I mean, she explains a little bit here in this little clip right here. I love that. We just started doing over Christmas. We moved into a new neighborhood, and we're doing like a Santa Claus thing where we go to each other's houses, and we'll, for a half hour, we'll hang out, have a couple cocktails, and then go to the next one, which is a great opportunity to see the homes and to get to know the neighbors a little bit more. I mean, what do you do? Like, do you get on Facebook? Do you guys have a neighborhood Facebook page?
I'm not on Facebook. I don't want anything to do with it, quite frankly.
How can you?
You want to talk about that? I don't find that's not a connection point for me. I've been staying in touch with people with letters and notes and phone calls for as long as I've been around, and that's my preferred choice. I find that the happiness and the productive, positive way forward for me is the in-person.
It's so crazy to think, but think about this, right? Like, growing up, I'm sure your parents were like mine. We would drive around and we would just do the drop-in. Like, just drop in to see how someone's doing, whether it's a relative or a friend or a neighbor. If you do that now, you're going to probably be shunned or shot. I don't know, but we don't typically do the drop-in anymore. I don't know if it was an episode on Seinfeld that kind of portrayed that as negative, but I think we should be doing more of that. Like, I'm sorry to my neighbors in advance. I'm going to start doing the drop-in. And to my friends, I'm going to start doing the drop-in call, I guess, and just checking out and see how you guys are doing and making out. The text, I text quite a bit. I mean, I email more than I text, just checking in, and I think that's a little impersonal, but it's also professional. But I think we need to be more connected with people and just on a different level and just show more emotion, I guess, show more effort on our parts and try to be more in person and more personable and more connected through other sources of communication. I think text and email, I think text is convenient. I think email is more more professional than personal. But I don't know. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on the drop-in. Like, do you guys drop in? Like, do you guys just drive up to someone's house anymore and just drop in? I remember growing up, and it was like something that we did on a regular. Like, we would just drop in someone's house and just say, hey, what's up? I'm very curious to see if you guys still do that. So you can head over to yoursuperiorself.com, message me. I'm really interested in hearing if you guys do this. Or you can check me out on social media, Instagram at tdowns80, and Twitter at DownsTrey, on Facebook at Trey Downs. So let me know your thoughts. So getting back to Ginger, she wholeheartedly believes that there are remarkable people everywhere, and her mission is literally to connect the world one person at a time. So without further ado, it is my honor to present to you Ginger Johnson. What is up, Ginger? How are you?
I'm fabulous, Trey, but I'll get better. How are you?
You'll get better. What's up with that?
We're all works in progress, aren't we? So it's the mindset of growth and looking for the positive, and it always cracks people up too. So I guess it's effective in a little connection jumpstart.
Connection. So that's the business that you're in. The industry is connection, right?
The industry. That's an interesting way to think about it. I am in the realm of human connection and teaching the why and how to connect on purpose with other people. If you want to call it an industry, great. I think of it as a community. I think that mindset is everywhere. And so there's no one bandwidth, so to speak, when you are in that idea of growth and like, what are your connections and what's the value? What's the wonder? What's the reward? What's the purpose for you? Then you're in that community.
I hear connection a lot. Like I hear a lot more frequently how people want to connect more, and I think it has to do with technology and kind of we're losing that a little bit. I think just because of social media and smartphones. What are your thoughts on that?
I would agree. I see it everywhere, and I think that the word connect has a number of meanings. I'll say it that way. So one thing is, and when I talk about connectivity, people think it's automatically technology oriented. Well, that little thing that talks back to us and that makes all kinds of sounds and that is quite freaking frankly a marvel is not connectivity. It's a tool. And so that is definitely on the collective. I think there's a synergy coming together, Trey, of what's going on in the technological world and how we interact with that, and then our human connection. And there's a kind of a backlash, if you will, of people feeling disconnected and lonely. In fact, the American Psychological Association says there's an epidemic of disconnection and loneliness. The great thing about human connection, not technological connection, is we can reverse that, Trey. We can do that every single time we walk out the door, when we see somebody else. Frankly, we can help mitigate some of that when we are on the phone, when we're doing things live, like you and I are doing while we're recording this right now. That is entirely different than connecting electronically.
Well, like, is there like a scale of connectivity? Like, is there like, 1 through 10, like you and I right now connecting on the Zoom platform? I mean, we're not face to face, but is it the same type of connection? Like, can you be more connected?
I think so.
No.
I know so. So, and that's a great point. Let's discuss that for a minute. So we are seeing each other live while you're recording this right now. It's the first time we've laid eyes on each other live. Super grateful for this opportunity to be here with you and to share for everybody listening. Still not the same as being in person, because tell me this, what would be different if I was in that recording studio with you right now?
I might be able to see more, more of you, everything, right? Like the sights, the sounds, the smells, everything like that. Like, obviously, I can only see like, your top half. I can't see anything else. So it's like, I guess the full story wouldn't be told if you know what I mean? If you're not here, I wouldn't be able to read your entire body language, I guess.
That's certainly a huge factor. There's 3 general large bodies, so to speak, of language, and it's verbal, nonverbal, and body language. So you're right. Same with you. I can see you from about mid upper arm up, and so I don't get to feel the temperature of the room. I don't get to see what else is on your walls. I can't learn more about you by not being there with you. The great thing about technology is that it is a conduit. There are some pathways for us to interact, I'll say. Are we truly connected? I'm pretty specific about my definition of connectivity. I mean, it needs to be in person, on purpose. And so what I love about something like Zoom is that we can start the connection, we can start the connecting tissue, so to speak. We can get the interactions rolling, and then we decide where to go. Because I bet everybody listening, including you, Trey, when you've had that opportunity to quote, meet somebody online or meet somebody online, and then you actually meet them face to face physically in the same space, there's some real magic to that, isn't there?
Well, it depends. Like, I mean, sometimes people look totally different than what they look like online. It's like, oh man, that was a glamour shot for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, magic isn't always positive. It's like the word exciting, like Simon Sinek says. Exciting can be all kinds of on the scale, and magic is the same. You get in the same room, like, oh wow, that's not what I thought. That is what I thought. This is completely different, and it's great. This is completely different, and I don't like it. But there's no doubt that the actual interaction in physical proximity to each other is different than it is electronically. It's massively different when it's voice to voice only, and it is ridiculously different when it is images or text only. And that to me is not connection. That is one form of communicating. We have to be really careful with it, because we all know the downfalls of email and texting and so forth, when we really need to amp up our communication skills. And communication is connectivity. And that's one reason why it's so fundamentally important to me.
Yeah, no, if you use all caps, it can go, I think you're yelling at me.
Stop shouting at me.
Yeah, stop yelling at me. Good morning, exclamation point. Yeah, I think connection is key. I love it because, like, I love to get outside of my comfort zone. Like, I am naturally shy, and to meet someone for the first time, especially on a Zoom platform, is kind of out of my comfort zone, just because I'm used to those face-to-face interactions. And I think it's important. I think a lot of businesses don't put the amount of importance that it should on connection, right, with the clients and even with the employees. I think it's not first on the list of things to do. I think, the bottom line is always revenue and profit, and then next thing you know, it's employees. But anyway, how did you get into this type of business? Like, how did you become an expert connector?
It's an interesting question. How did I get into this business? Well, I've been in business for myself for almost 20 years. Jumped off that abyss in 02, 03. So, and was thinking about it. And that's a whole other story. It's not the question you're asking me. So I'll keep going to the question you asked me.
Hold up. No. The abyss.
Okay,
Jumped off the abyss.
Okay.
Now, what was the abyss?
Okay.
Rewind.
There was a why in the road, and that's where one of the elements of connectivity come from. There's a why in the road, Trey, in every choice we make, and I call it a why, not a fork. The ancient fork only had 2 tines, but the modern fork has too many. So there's a why. It's a choice point, as I call it. And I was managing hardware stores. I was living in the Midwest, and I love the hardware business. There's a lot of connection there. There's fascinating romance stories about hardware and so forth. And I was at that choice point, that why in the road, and I could either work for somebody else again, I could risk that, or I could go into business for myself. And I didn't come from a family of entrepreneurs or business owners necessarily. So I started exploring both of those branches. And I thought, if I'm going to work for somebody else, what does that look like? Who might that be? And I was incredibly proactive about who I was interested. I was interviewing. I was looking at. It wasn't the who's got the hiring sign on the board. That's the juice. When I say juice is a lesson. So the juice to that story is go after what you want. There shouldn't have to be a sign in the window for you to pursue something that you want. So I considered other businesses, and then I thought, well, what does it look like to open my own company? Where'd that idea come from? I don't know. So I started chasing that and considering that. And in that decision process, I did end up working for somebody else for a little while, and I kind of came to the same gate again that I had come from in a different entity. And I really reflected, and I thought, okay, so is this headbutting essentially? Is this just me? And that's okay. There's no, it's good to know who you are. It's good to know what fulfills you, where your stops are, where your goes are, things like that. And I ran up against what I saw as the same wall. And I'm like, is this me? Or is this, like, what else is going on? And so I wasn't at that position very long, because I thought, I'm doing the same damn thing and I'm still not getting anywhere. And so, good people, no judgment, I need to go. So I did that. And then I jumped off into my own, and I have never looked back. and that's not the first, this is not the first company I started. The first company I started was the Little Pillow Company, because everybody needs a little pillow. And I made pillows and custom goods from scratch, not because I was this master sewer, because I saw an opportunity, because it came from my family background, because I thought, why not do something completely different? And that's when I went. So in that story, Trey, the connection of why I started that company and what I learned, I remember learning huge marketing lessons. And I think I'm built for marketing. I love marketing. Marketing is communication. Communication is connectivity. It's this wonderful virtuous circle. When we think about how we serve people, it's communication oriented. It's the WIFM. It's all those things of helping people figure out what makes their life better. And are you the one to support them in that? So there's no looking back. I felt, I'm like, this, yeah, let's go. I hit both gas pedals. This is amazing. I feel so connected to this. I loved having my own first company. I'm on my fourth company now. And this is the one I want to be with for a really long time, because human connection is where we find value in life. It's where our memories come from. It's where we strive to put ourselves in mentally and physically, and the relationships in our lives. That's what we measure a lot of our quote success by.
There's so much I want to talk about. First off, the little pillows, like, how long did you do that for? Was that like, I mean, obviously a year or two, maybe?
I did that for 5 years.
Nice. So like, you made them, and then you shipped them out. Like, what was, 5 years, you definitely.
Who the heck opens a pillow company, right? Like,
Yeah,
what
but I
the
mean,
hell?
like, that's like, did you do everything in-house? Like, I mean,
I did everything. So so imagine yourself, you've just started your own business. You decide you're going to make pillows. You decide you're going to not buy pre-made pillow forms. You decide you're going to make the pillows, Trey, like stuff them yourselves. So what do? You figure out how to order the filling. Okay, that was one of my first jobs. Polyfill. I'm sure I could think of the company if I thought long enough, but I don't remember it right now. But I ordered great big boxes of polyfill. These were like 25-pound boxes, but a 25-pound box of pillow filling, Trey, it's a pretty big box.
how many pillows is that, though?
That sounds like a riddle. I don't know. I'll get back to you on that. Depends on the size of the pillow. I mean, it could be one, right? So what I loved about this is I can remember, as plain as I'm looking at you right now, the day my first shipment of filling arrived. I was so amped up. I'm like, whoa, like, it's real now. The FedEx truck backs up, beep, 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 opens up the door. It's January. It's cold where I'm living. And they start unloading these boxes. And these boxes are big. These boxes are probably like hip high and by 24 by 24. So these are big, tall boxes. And I ordered like 10 of them because that's where the best price was. Like, okay, so now in my garage, I got these 10 big boxes. It looks like I'm moving of polyfill. And then I gotta share this with you. So I'm like, woo, I open this up. And I open up the first box, and they're in a bag. So they're in a big plastic bag. Well, if you've ever opened a box of compacted polyfill, be ready for the incredible rising box. Because it's been compacted to fit. And I opened up the box, and it starts to get big. It starts to rise like a big loaf of dough. And it was so like, oh my God, this is so cool. So then I started making pillows. So I did it because my family, when I was a little girl, I have a sister, and when we were little girls, my parents didn't want us dragging around a blanket that would get all ratty and dirty and so forth. So my mom literally made us little pillows. When I was thinking about what business do I want to start, back at that choice point, I thought, I could build a better mousetrap. I could start something new. I could blah, 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 blah. And I thought, I'm going to try this little pillow business. And that's where the idea came from. So boxes of polyfill. I was in my basement studio sewing in my pajamas, and I was making pillows.
That's awesome. I can just only imagine what they look like too. They're like these small little like quilt looking pillows. Like, I can just imagine it right now.
You want to see one?
Yeah, for sure. This is going to be great, by the way. I cannot wait. I almost want one.
All right. So I had a store, and we had all shapes. I had some sets, shapes, and sizes, and then I ended up doing a lot of custom. But here's a couple of examples of little. I've never showed anybody these on a podcast, so
Oh,
you
that's
get like
awesome.
the world premiere.
First, here we go.
So
World
here's
premiere.
one.
Holy crap! Look at that thing. That is amazing.
Oh, it's all nice. And here's,
So
see, they're hypoallergenic and they're totally washable. So you're gonna relaunch my pillow company.
I know.
Here's a
I love
nice
those.
long one.
Oh, that is. I need one of those for sure. Like,
Yeah, I'll send me your address. I'll make you one. And then I even had the custom labels made, like
oh,
for
look at
real,
that.
PLPC.
Yeah, you need to
So
make. Can you make a your superior self pillow?
of course I
Oh
can.
my goodness, that'd be
I
so
would be
amazing. I need
delighted
one.
to. You got it.
I need that pillow in my life. Why did you stop?
Deal on. That's a great question. I stopped because I was a merchant. I had my own literal store space, and I love being a merchant. Talk about connectivity and community. I loved being a merchant. And I started getting restless. I started realizing that I wanted to go to that meeting or go to that event or something like that. Well, I had a store. And it's not up to your customers to figure out when the heck you're open. If you've got posted hours, you need to be there. You need to be available. And I started doing that more, and I thought, I can't play with them this way. And so I closed it by choice.
Well, you can always reopen those doors.
Absolutely. Yes.
So
because everybody needs a little pillow.
Yeah, I definitely do. I've been reading this book, The Great Good Place by, I'm going to chop his name up, Ray Oldenburg. And it talks about that, right? Like, so I've been reading this and he calls it the third place, right? Like you have the work, you have work, home, and then the third place. Well, he talks about the United States and how we don't have that third place like Europe does. Like Europe, Paris have these cafes where everybody goes, and in the UK where they have these taverns where they go after work and they hang out and they talk politics, and the community connection is very strong there. And it's so funny how like I started reading that, and now I'm talking to you about connection, because it's really something that I'm passionate about. Like I have these ideas about starting like almost starting up a cafe type place, like a coffee place, right? Where there's no electronics allowed at all. Like you can come in, drink some good coffee, have some great conversation. There's going to be a library in the back room. You can come in and hang out as long as you want. You can pay a membership fee and get all this coffee that you want, but there is absolutely no technology allowed in here. I know that's, my wife's like, are you crazy? Like, why would you do that? Like the people, that's all they want to do. I'm like, exactly. And that's why there's no connection.
I'm sure your wife is a lovely person. I would nudge back on that. That is not what people want to do. People want to connect. Here's a story.
All right. So before you tell the story,
yes.
Well, tell the story and then I'll ask you the question.
Well, so a friend of mine, I have beer in my background also. So that was one of my other businesses, the Women Enjoying Beer. And I studied females and their relationship with beer. And along the way, I learned a ton, way more than I thought I'd ever learn. And one of the top things that I learned that a lot of consumers don't want are screens in their restaurants and their bars and their pubs. Look, there's a format for that. It's called sports bar. That's great. If you want to go and be like tuned into that and still have other people around you who you don't normally have in your living room, great, go do it. There's real purpose, and there's community around that. Like I went to watch the World Cup games last year, and we went to one of the local bars. Well, that's a different kind of thing. But one of my friends who has a brew pub here in town, or close to me here where I live, he's talking about kind of renovating the space. And he said, yeah, we're talking about this. We're thinking about adding screens and so forth. And I'm like, hang on just a second, friend. I'm going to encourage you to think about not having screens, because those are a disconnection. They are a distraction and they are a disconnection. We come together to come together. And when we are left to our own devices, no pun intended, when we left to skills and verbal and body language communication, that's when we build cultures. That's when community is built. It's not when we're looking at our screens. It's not when we're watching the tube, whatever it is. When we really choose to connect and or quote forced to connect because we don't have other distractions, that's when magic happens. Why are we so compelled to watch things like Survivor? We're compelled because these people quote have to get along, or they're forced into the same situation, and so we're going to see what the relationships are. That's fascinating because we like watching the other people. Why do people like sitting in the bar? Why do they like sitting at the airport? Because the people watching, and people watching is informing us of who we are as a species and what we act like. And if you're really tuned into yourself, it's very self-reflective.
Well, yeah, and like podcasts too, right? Like this one, people don't listen. They want to listen to a conversation. They want to feel like they're eavesdropping in on a conversation between two
Right.
people.
Right.
And I agree with you 100%. Like I never even thought. Like I was thinking, maybe a screen here or there, but you're absolutely right. The only time I've seen people connect at a sports bar is like it's a major game, right? Like a major championship game where a lot of people are in there. I mean, they're slapping high five when things are going great, but I don't want that. I want like some deep thought, some converse. I mean, I want people in there. I don't even care if you talk about politics, as long as it's a deep conversation. I mean, and he goes deep into this book, The Great Good Place, where he talks about the science of conversation and how back in the day, like, the government didn't like these places because that's where people were educated about the policies that they were trying to in place in the government. And that this is where they got their most resistance with these small communities like this that had these locations. They were like the central part, the central pillar of the community. And in America, we don't necessarily have, I mean, I don't know. I'm in Baltimore where there used to be taverns at every corner of every block, but you don't see that anymore. You see it. You see. I guess we're more concerned with convenience now and getting things quick, and we don't necessarily want to. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it is really. I mean, do you know? Like, I mean, why has it changed so much? Like people, I feel like, especially now, maybe it's a younger generation, but with Facebook and social media, like we're used to getting responses faster because of instant messenger and things like that. Like, texting, we get a response fairly quick. And if we don't, then we get upset. But I don't know. I just feel like people just want convenience instead of like actually getting outside of their comfort zones and connecting more.
Convenience is an interesting word. I think convenience is a crutch for other things we think we want. Uh, a stick could be convenient in the woods if we want to hit something. It's convenience is an interesting word. I'm going to encourage us to rethink, why are we all wanting human connection to begin with, and how do we seek that out, and how do we make it happen?
Mhm.
Coffee shops aren't about the coffee.
Mm.
A concert, yeah, it's about the music. A sports performance, something about the sport actually being played. But really what we all want, whether it's the sports bar or the library or the pub or the coffee shop or the neighborhood dog park or whatever it is, we want to feel connected. We want to feel like we belong. Whatever that connection is, to the earth, to our neighbors, to our neighborhood, to our friends, to whatever that is. Connection is more than just human to human, right? And we are an incredibly myopic and arrogant species sometimes. And I want, my mission is to connect the world, because I see that the power of knowing your neighbors, for example, of walking into a coffee shop and being able to have a conversation of whatever length, that's where life happens. And that's what makes life great. It also is where we solve problems. It's where we come up with solutions. Like the hot topics that people say they shouldn't talk about are exactly the topics we need to be talking about. You mentioned the P word, politics.
Mm.
If we were able to come together more, we would respect each other more, because we would know more about each other, and then we can have those conversations. I call them the sticky conversations. The easy conversations are easy, but the easy conversations aren't the deeper ones sometimes that you're referencing, I'm guessing.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
conversations we need to have are being able to discuss something that feels sticky, something that might deign as controversial, but it's really not controversial. It's simply a concern or an issue. So before it blows up, and before we let ourselves stop thinking and start judging, then we're toast. So human connection is critical. Case in point, this little town I live in here in Southern Oregon, probably about 8,000 people. It's kind of a bedroom community, little light manufacturing, but for the most part, it's a lot of residential. It's great. We live a block and a half from what we call the dog park, which is actually the local elementary school. And we bring our four-legged kids up there and we run them around, and we have met so many of our fellow townspeople that way. So what does that mean on the bigger scope, Trey? That means that when you're out and about, you see these people, you greet them, they return the greeting, you feel a little more noticed and valued, which is huge. That's a huge part of human connection. Oh, you see me. Okay, good. I wanted to be seen. I want to feel like I'm valued, like I matter. There is a safety elevation when you are aware of who is in your neighborhood and in your purview on the sidewalk, wherever you might be, your office, whatever that is. There is a sense of peace and belonging. We throw neighborhood parties. I'm a serial dinner party thrower anyway. At the same time, how many block parties happen anymore? Like Baltimore used to be a super robust, thriving, healthy place, right? And it's like any big city, it's got some of its warts. I get it. I grew up in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And there are still people who want to have a cohesive group in their neighborhood. Like, be that person. I'm going to challenge your listeners right now. Be that person who connects. I've had two of my neighbors say, Ginger, you're so good at bringing the neighborhood together. And I don't say that to pat my own back. It certainly feels good. But I ask them, like, well, why do you think that? Why do you see that? Well, you know everybody. Well, why do you suppose that is? Because I'm out in my yard and I say hello to people. This is easy, folks. This has nothing to do with being an introvert or an extrovert or shy or outgoing or anything. Confidence is what connectivity is built on. So the juice here is that it's skills-based. Anybody who wants to learn how to connect, anybody who wants to go into that coffee shop or sports bar or dog park or grocery store or your own home, if you want to connect with people, if you want to develop connections, you can do it. There's a structure to it. There's all kinds of ways you do it, but it has to be intention-based, and it's definitely skills-based. Anybody?
I love that. We just started doing like over Christmas. We moved into a new neighborhood, and we're doing like a Santa Claus thing where we go to each other's houses, and we'll, for a half hour, we'll hang out, have a couple cocktails, and then go to the next one, which is a great opportunity to see the homes and to get to know the neighbors a little bit more. I mean, what do you do? Like, do you get on Facebook? Do you guys have a neighborhood Facebook page?
I'm not on Facebook. I don't want anything to do with it, quite frankly.
How can you, it's the major, like,
listen, we want to talk about that. I don't find that's not a connection point for me.
No.
I've been staying in touch with people with letters and notes and phone calls for as long as I've been around, and that's my preferred choice. I find that the happiness and the productive, positive way forward for me is the in-person. So we hosted a neighborhood party, and we threw it in our driveway. Our neighbors right across the street, phenomenal neighbors. They're great. We watch each other's dogs. We know each other's, we know their kids. It's, hey, can you have our dog in the backyard for a few hours? Cause we're going out hiking. Yeah. Like, that's connection, Trey. That's when you're willing to watch out and pay attention. We had a neighborhood potluck, and we put a little sign on everybody's door early one morning within a block and a half range. And we invited people, and it's a soup block party. So bring a crock pot of soup and some, whatever you want to have in addition to that. And we're going to do it this night and on this date. And we put a fire pit in our front driveway, and we opened up the garage. We strung some lights. Like, see, here's the deal. Getting together in that kind of format is not about what you're serving. It's not about what your home looks like. It's not about how much money you make. It's not the color of your skin. It's not if you vacuumed in the last week. It's about somebody saying, Trey, I really want you to come over. And what they're really saying is, I want to get to know you because you matter. That's human connection at its best. So this Santa idea that your neighbor, great, keep going with that. Make it fundamentally enjoyable, simple, and straightforward. It does not have to be complex, and it doesn't even have to cost you anything. So that soup potluck, it was great. We didn't ask for RSVPs, like, just come walking up the driveway if you want to join us. So we had, 15, 20 people, and it was terrific. And
That's
people
awesome.
came and went, and most of the other neighbors had not met each other.
Mm.
If you
Well,
can be that conduit, that's powerful.
I'm gonna accept that challenge. I'm gonna
All right.
try to
If
do
I
that
have
a
to
little
come out
bit.
there to Baltimore to deliver those pillows and be part of this, I will.
Absolutely. I'll have a little potluck out in the
That's
front
right.
driveway.
Let's do it.
Get some crab cakes and crab soup, Maryland crab soup going for you.
Right.
So with your connection programs, do you teach people like, all right, so if they're, let's say they want to try to get out to their comfort zone and they want to connect with people, like connection, you have to have a conversation. And some people aren't comfortable with that, right? Like, how do you coach people through that? Like maybe teach them like strategies on how to present a conversation, how to start a conversation, what to do when they start feeling weird about maybe the conversation isn't going the way they want.
Yes. Yes is the short answer. So growth
Yes,
doesn't
that's it.
happen.
Yes, I do that.
Yes.
That's it.
Growth does not happen in a comfort zone.
Mm,
And so if you think you want to grow, get the blank out of whatever you think the zone border is, because that's not where growth happens. Comfort, like Bo Eason says, one of the coaches I've paid attention to, comfort is a booby prize. You're not going for comfort. Go for confidence if you're going to go for something.
mm,
That's that skills that I referenced before. In the canon, the book I wrote about connectivity, I outlined the elements of connection, and that there are 7 elements. And in that canon, this simple book, it's available through my website, I outline the actual steps, because it's somebody, and I get this once in a while, Ginger, that's easy for you to say, you're good at it. Okay, thank you. I've worked at it. Like, I wasn't a shy person necessarily, but I also have become essentially addicted to wanting to connect with people and finding the fascination and finding the tendrils. Like, you and I, we're probably 2 degrees of separation. I'm
mm,
guessing no more than that. I'm sure we could talk that out quickly. I know some people in Baltimore, like you probably, you know, people, and there's so much more that we have in common than we don't. So when people say, "Oh, I don't have anything in common with them," I'm like, "No, no, no, dude, that's not true."
yeah, yeah.
That's your belief.
I think
That's
the
not a
average
fact.
is like the world not world record, but the whatever it is. I think it's like 4.3. I think it's 4.3, but LinkedIn's like 3.7 as far as um yeah, it's something like that. I think I was reading a book and they actually brought that up and I was like, which is like knowledge you just, kind of put in your back pocket. And then I didn't know that I was going
Right.
to have a conversation with somebody and actually bring it up. But
Mhm.
I'm glad that I had the opportunity to bring that up. I think the degrees of separation in the world are like 4.3 and then LinkedIn's like 3.7. I think it's insane that I actually even know that. But
It's that useful.
um,
You'll be great on Jeopardy, and I hear there's a whole new round of
I would
opportunities
be
for.
I would be bad. Everything else, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
States
yeah.
capitals, that thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
So I do teach people how to do that. That's my coaching. Where people want to learn why and how to connect with people. That is my specific area of expertise. So people maybe they're in a career building mode. Maybe they are simply in a life building mode, which career falls into life. They have a speech coming up or a talk coming up. I coach people on how to speak to connect. My next live summit is become a better speaker, because speaking, whether it's one-to-one, one-to-few, or one-to-many, Trey, that's connectivity. That's communication. And when we can speak well, we connect better. Build your speaking skills, build a better life,
mm,
because it's all about connection. How many of us have, I'm going to guess every hand in the room, virtual and literal, would go up on this. How many of us have seen somebody speaking and it's almost painful, if it's not flat out painful, because it's not that the person is a bad person. It's not that the information isn't interesting, whatever that is, but they are struggling so hard and it's really uncomfortable and
mm.
it's awkward and they're having a hard time, and so you're feeling empathetic to that, and the whole thing is just a train wreck waiting to, on slow-mo in front of your eyes. Like,
It's fear.
that's very, that there's some fear there, and that's why we go back to skills. So when I'm coaching people, like, look, I can show you how to do this. The elements of connectivity in the canon, the first 2 are the why and mindset. We've got to be in those 2 first. The why is absolutely first, the mindset has to follow, and then the next 5 are tactical.
Mm,
It's the first move, it's the why in the road, pursue your path, follow up and follow through. Because like you, I'm going to guess, Trey, when somebody says, "Hey, Trey, will you build me something?" Great. Let's get to the how to.
Hmm.
If I've already determined why I want a bookshelf, because I got all those stacks of books over there, okay, great. Because I want to keep them off the floor. I want to keep them for a long time. I want to take care of them. And then your mindset's like, okay, so if I want to keep those books in good shape because I want them to last for a long time because there's a lot of value in them, I'm going to get a bookshelf. Okay, so we go and we buy a bookshelf, we build a bookshelf, then that's very tactical. And I really like the tactical because that's a very functional, tangible part of life. And when we complete building something, whatever that something is, there's a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment and connectivity to our skills, our capabilities, that sense of accomplishment that is incredibly motivating and inspiring for us.
I love that tactical. I like, well, you get your hands dirty, right? You actually get to see, I mean, especially with your clients, I'm sure you get to see a lot of amazing stories, right? Of someone who could barely get up and speak in front of a room of maybe one or two, and then next thing you know, they're speaking in a room of 50 or so. You know, like it just you know, you get to see the value that you put in somebody's career or project or whatever. Like it's amazing. Do you get to work with clients and companies with that have that generational gap, like the millennials and the baby boomers, and trying, help them with that connectivity there?
So that's another interesting area of turf. I love these questions you're asking, Trey. These are great. So we're all human. I think we can agree on that. Species, anyway. And I think another area of myth busting, I'll say
Mhm.
that, is that there's gaps between generations. Now, to be clear, I absolutely believe and relatively convicted that there are differences between generations. How could there not be? We're raised in different times of the world or in different environments and things like that, different things going on to inform our worldview and so forth. So each generation, if you will, certainly has different sets of circumstances. I am always flummoxed when people say, oh, well, how do I communicate with a millennial? They're so X, Y, and Z. Well, first of all, it's really insulting and it's very condescending to think about that way. Hey, you know what? The number one thing here, the juice here, is that we are all human. Even though we have different informers and qualities to our life and circumstance and so forth, we are all still human to start with. Start with that. Find out where you're at. I'm working with a great client in Oregon right now and doing a series of workshops for their team because they invest in regular education, which is a perfect example of how companies bring me in. It's the longer trajectory because growth isn't a one-off situation. Growth is a long-term
Sure.
proposition. So I'm going in for a series of working with this team, and it's fantastic because some of the stories they're telling me from our time in the room together, growing, teaching, learning, are changing their lives. For example, one of the people in the room, the industry is is an industry who takes care of other people, caregiving, IDD, intellectual and developmental disabilities, people doing hard work that a lot of people don't understand or don't appreciate. And I challenged one of them in the room to have a conversation based on a comment that this person made. They said, yeah, well, the police are hard to get along with and they just don't understand and blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, you know what? Let's turn that into a challenge because we're all human. We're all doing what we think we need to do. And there's a huge opportunity there. So I challenged, it happened to be a woman. And I said, I'm going to challenge you to call the police department and ask if you can have a conversation with one of them. And guess what happened?
They had a conversation.
She took that challenge. It happened in a coffee shop. And she said they started talking and I gave them specific ways to approach the conversation and so forth. So that's definitely the coaching. Like, this is a good way to enter into that conversation. Drop the bravado, drop the defense, get rid of that thing on your shoulder and simply approach them as another person and say, hey, look, can we have a conversation about this? I think there's some misunderstandings and we really want to build a better understanding amongst us. And she said, another thing that came out of that conversation is the police department in that town wants to have ongoing conversations with them. Like, how powerful is that, Trey? Because now we've just created these ripples, right? We haven't just thrown a pebble in, we've thrown a freaking boulder in the water. And the impact of what that means for the greater community and the people you're serving, no matter the industry you're in, is enormous. She chose to accept that challenge. She is seeing progress because she can serve the people she's serving better. And everybody in every direction of that conversation will benefit. That's why this is so damn powerful. For me, this is why this matters. This is why I encourage people and teach people, coach, speak, all this, because human connection is where it comes down. Because if she didn't do that, she'd still be frustrated. She'd still feel like something was missing. The police wouldn't have that understanding. You know, I have so much respect for all our paramilitary. I'm a former firefighter. I get it. At the same time, like, let's come together because we're more alike than we are different.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I really like what you do. I think it's outstanding because nobody really teaches us how to connect. A lot of the time it's like, as kids, they're telling us sit down and be quiet, don't talk unless spoken to, like, especially in the company settings with millennials and the baby boomers. You go in, it's like you don't talk unless the big guy over here talks to you and tries to find out what's going on. But I love what you're doing. The teaching people how to connect is huge. Like, we're social beings, we're social animals. We need that. We need the connection with other people. I mean, we need that, and it's hard for like you were talking about having a conversation. It can be so polarizing because people, especially nowadays, you're not just fighting what they believe. You're fighting everything that they've ever been told, right? Like everything, as far as politics or religion or whatever. Like, you can't, like, it seems like you can't even have a conversation without somebody getting emotional or polarized to the point where they're up in arms because it's like they believe so strongly about the subject because of everything they've ever been told. I don't know. It's like, I look at some of the social media. I can't even watch the news, to be honest with you. Like, I can't even get on Twitter. I just I don't like that. I just don't like the negativity of it. Like, if I need to know something, like, I promise you, I'll find out somehow. There will be something, I'll hear about it and I'll tune in then. But as far as, I try to stay out of a lot of that stuff because like I said earlier, I mean, I'm not just fighting what you believe. I'm fighting what everybody in your life has told you is right or wrong. And it's tough. It's hard to connect with some people.
May I offer you both a challenge and some ideas?
You're just like this, like you're just like, you just challenge everyone. Like, you're the challenger.
Bring it back, brother. So I'm going to challenge you, first of all, that you use the word can't a few times in what you shared with me. And thank you for sharing. A lot of people feel the same way. Here's the deal, though. The only way we're going to get back together is to use different words. For one, sure. Can and can't are choices. I can't make your podcast today, Trey. That's my choice. I won't, or I don't, or I will, or I do. Juice, shift your language. Shift your language, because when you shift your language, your mind shifts. And your mind, you are totally in control of what your mind thinks. Our beliefs are changeable. They are what we think. They are not facts. So I want everybody to be super clear on that. They are not facts. They are what we believe. They are informed by everything we think. They are convictions. They are feelings and so forth. So it's good to get emotional about what we believe. What we need to think about is how to use those emotions to bring people together instead of polarize. Now, to be really clear, I think it's super important that we all have our own opinions.
Sure.
Absolutely. And there's a way to use your opinion to promote productive, respectful discourse. That's the key. So a couple of tactics I'm going to share with you in the audience, because it's people are like, yeah, I don't know how to do that. Okay, great. I got some answers. You ready?
Oh, I thought you were giving me another challenge.
I'm gonna challenge everybody.
Challenge for you.
Like, imagine waking up and looking at myself in the mirror. Like, all right, Johnson, what's your challenge today? Oh, another one. Okay, here we go. So when you find yourself, when you put yourself in a situation where there's going to be a conversation, decide consciously, set the intention of being objective. And being objective means you suspend judgment. Being objective means that you simply want to find out more. This isn't about confirmation of what you think is right or best or whatever. This isn't about making somebody look bad. This isn't about disagreeing. This is about expanding your mind. POW is an acronym I use in the canon and in my teachings. Positive, objective, and willing. That's what connectors are, Trey. If you are all three of those things, positive, objective, and willing, you will open more doors. You will be more magnetic, for those of you in the business room here and just the personal realm who want to attract people. You will be educating yourself. That's the growth mindset. One of the best books I've read in a long time, and I read a lot of books, is Mindset by Carol Dweck. I highly recommend it, DWECK, for everybody. I don't know if you've read it or not. It's massively moving the needle for all of us, because it talks about growth mindset or fixed mindset. We think we're in a fixed mindset, which means we think what we think, we don't want to think anything different. That's wrong. While that's good for some things, don't step on the ice, it's too thin. That's smart fixed mindset. But like, how am I going to get across the lake? Well, I could get across it lots of ways. When we put ourselves in the scenarios on purpose, and when we find ourselves in scenarios incidentally as well, engage in a conversation. Ask an open-ended, safe, positive question. For example, Trey, what's been one of the best things about your week so far?
Talking with you.
Okay, great. Now we can go further with that, because then what you want to do is ask a series of follow-up. Tell me more about that. The tell me more is gold. That came initially from one of my coaches, Jennifer Deep Stratton. When you're engaging somebody and you want to progress the conversation, tell me more about that. People love talking about themselves. They love talking about their own opinions. Like, we are a part of that, and that's great. So how do you connect? You ask open-ended positive questions and you start the conversation. Now, there are also extraction techniques. I teach those when I coach and when I speak and in workshops and so forth. We won't go there today. What I want to really encourage people to do is have one new conversation. Let's put the challenge out there. So have 2 to 5 new conversations. I know, and it's so doable. It's so great. Blow it out of the water. Have 2 to 5 new conversations a week this year. This is the first year of a new decade. This isn't just any old new year. This is a decade. Think of where we're going to be in 10 more years. We can make it great. We can make it better, or we can let it suck on wheels. Which one do you want to do? It's your choice. It's up to us, all of us individually, one-on-one, to connect and to help bring us together. When is any country at its best, Trey? What happens that really brings us together?
Well, there's 2 that come to mind. So like one would be, I'm not trying to bring the mood down, but I'm thinking like something bad happens and then we come together, right? Like, 9/11, right?
Right. So what, did that make our country stronger?
Yeah.
Yes. Did anybody want that?
No.
Okay. This is exactly the same damn thing. Nobody necessarily, quote, wants this, yet people are being frankly lazy. They're checking out. They're thinking, they're taking offense. Like, no. Don't you dare. Look at the work that it took to get our country going, and any country and any business entity, family, whatever that is, that takes work. We cannot be afraid of that. We need to embrace that, because when we do the work, we see the progress, we learn, we connect, we grow, we make mistakes, but mistakes are tuition, like one of my best friends says. As long as we are still moving and learning from that, that's when we come together. Yes, disaster, catastrophe, those things that where we can all see ourselves, that's when empathy is in the room, Trey. And that's what is incredibly powerfully binding for a species, period. And so when we want to think about connecting, you don't have to go down the tragedy route. So why not go down the positive route while we can, and when we can, whenever, every single time we can, find something positive. Look for the positive. This doesn't mean shutting a blind eye. It means looking actively for the positive. When somebody says, oh my gosh, I can't believe that blankety blank, they're a real blankety blank. You're like, well, that's an interesting thought. Tell me a little bit more about why you feel that way. And some people might say, yeah, whatever, Ginger. No, I'm serious. Because the only way the sticky topics are going to become less sticky, or at least better debatable instead of argued, is when we respectfully ask somebody for their opinion. And we listen. Julian Treasure, one of the world's experts on sound and listening, highly recommend his work. He nails it. He talks about so many things. The gift of listening comes from a place of love, because we give our unimpeded, total attention and presence to that person. It doesn't mean we're doing this. It doesn't mean we're on something else. It doesn't mean there's a TV in the background. It means we are focused one-on-one like you and I are doing right now, Trey. That is intention. That is listening. That's connection, because you're telling that person, I value you. I really want to hear what you say. You suspend any judgment in your head. You don't listen to respond. You listen to take it all in. That's the magic. That's the juice. When you learn those things, you're right. We're not necessarily taught these things. We're not taught listening. We're not taught speaking. We're not taught a lot of things. So take it on yourself to learn.
To get better.
Everybody can.
Yeah. Stephen Kotler would say that you and I are in like group flow. So I don't know if you have heard about flow states or not over there, but flow states. That's
why they say go with the flow, right? There's
flow.
Something to that. It's not just a glib statement.
Yeah. I love it. How can people connect with you, Ginger?
They can I love connecting with great people, and they can reach me gingerjohnson.com. That's my website and my world headquarters. I am very active on LinkedIn as well. I think that's a remarkable community. Twitter @GingerJohnson. I'm learning Instagram, Ginger the Connector. My phone number is on my website. People can reach out to me as well, depending on what they want and how I can help them. I would love to do what I can to help.
That's awesome. This has been really fun, actually. Fun.
Are we already at an hour?
Yeah, we're at an hour right now. See what happens when you get into flow. See what happens.
This has been awesome. I'm super grateful for your invite, Trey. I know this won't be the last time we talk, and I can't wait to go to one of those Santa events or some other in Baltimore.
Potluck. I'm telling you, come down.
I'm bringing a pillow.
Well, I want to ask you one last question. Like when it's all said and done with, like when, it's over, like what do you want your legacy to be?
I think the biggest compliment I get, it used to be that people would say, Ginger, you have such great energy. And I certainly appreciate that. And I realize that there's real value in that. The biggest compliment I can get, my legacy, since you put it that way, will be that people have connected with other people on purpose through any fog or barriers they put in front of themselves, because they have seen it modeled by someone, whether it's me or someone else, and they've seen the immensely positive impact it can have by being able to have human connection with other people who they didn't necessarily expect to connect with. And if I can be a part of that, then my life will be well lived.
Beautiful. I love it. Her name is Ginger Johnson. You can look her up at gingerjohnson.com. She's probably going to challenge you at some point.
That's where growth happens, my friend. Go and grow in the flow.
I love it, Ginger. Thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Trey, I'm super grateful for your time. Thank you for everybody for listening, and keep connecting.
I want to say thank you to Ginger for coming on the show and hanging out and teaching us about connection. I want to say thank you to you, the listener, for downloading this episode and hanging out. And I want to remind you guys that if you leave a rating and a review, it helps me scale the podcast and it gets us out to people that might need it the most. So thank you guys so much for listening, and I will talk to you guys later.